All right, Luke, you just told me that you want to talk about diamonds, so I know absolutely nothing about that. So it's going to be an interesting talk here. But also in the list of the movers that you sent me, like almost half of that list is in the red. So what is standing out to you?
Yeah, thanks, Antonio. It is, I think, a tough time in the mining business for investors right now. You can come with very good news, and the stock is going down, and that's something I wanted to talk about this week. But let's talk about the positives first. Um, One of them this week that stood out to me was VR Resources. On Wednesday, they announced a new kimberlite. And it's a long time ago that I think that the market became excited about diamond discoveries. And in this case, they have not discovered diamond yet, but kimberlites are often a pathfinder to the diamonds. And in the 90s, there were two really big diamond discoveries. One was made by Diamet, and the other one was made by Aber Resources. Discoveries were called Ekati and Diavik. And a number of companies, I think there were only like five, six, seven diamond companies left. Last year, I was thinking at some point, every metal or mineral comes back at some point, and often with a vengeance. These stocks can go from 4 cents to 40 cents just because they have lithium or just because they have copper. And in most cases, it works very well with very small minerals. And in this case, if you talk about a mineral or a diamond that has only six public companies left. But in the months that followed, I mean, there was not really a follow up. So I still follow the diamonds, but companies are moving from diamonds to lithium or other minerals because it's just simply the investors are not there for it. The money is not there for it. And VR Resources was drilling for rare earth minerals when they noticed this trend, this structure, and they decided to follow the trend and follow the structure, and they found indications of something new. So they did some magnetic surveys and some different surveys, and they found um, a couple of interesting features, and they decided to just drill one of them. And they made a kimberlite discovery a couple of months ago. So they decided to expand the survey, and they found these magnetic lows that corresponded with these with what they found in the data and also on site. And they decided to drill a couple of them. And so right now they are confirming kimberlites, and it's very difficult because as a non-geo to follow a copper discovery or to follow a gold discovery is one thing, but to follow diamonds, to be honest, I've no special skills to know what's good and what's bad. But the market decided this week that this one is worth following, and it, there's one diamond mine in Ontario, or there was one diamond mine that stopped producing. That's Victor, 300 kilometers north, and was owned by De Beers. And VR Resources managed to come up with a couple of very interesting properties over the years, and I don't think they succeeded in making a very big discovery so far. But I'm interested in seeing them, finding something new again. And so they are onto a big kimberlite field. There are several magnetic lows that they staked, and so far they get good results. But of course, they need to process and screen for diamonds, which will take months. Um, but the market decided since a long time that this is an interesting diamond or kimberlite discovery, and I just wanted to share this story because I think it's worth following. What happens if they really make a diamond discovery? Is there still interest from the majors for these type of deposits? Who knows? But if you think back to the 90s about what happened to those big diamond discoveries, it would be very interesting to find out if that sort of market could return if a company makes a new diamond discovery and suddenly it's game on again.
It's completely different though. Like the whole diamond sector is it works. They don't even have fixed prices for whatever they find. It depends on the quality of what they find. There's no spot price. There's nothing that you can really think about. So I don't even know where to start and why would I even want to start with diamonds. So a lot of questions.
Yeah, me, me neither. I would say. I find it very difficult. I need some help too because I read a lot of press releases from the 90s, and I asked myself, would I have noticed this discovery early enough to invest in these things or speculate into these things? What is it that makes the difference between another kimberlite and another real discovery? So I think a lot of people struggle with this, especially people who have no knowledge about. I'm not a geo, so I don't know a lot about copper geology either. So I'm just a speculator trying to make money without being a geologist. And I think that's possible. But with diamonds, it's even more difficult because indeed you have to do with quality. And so it is very difficult, but it also fascinates me. Those
Mm,
big discoveries fascinate me, but also this discovery of kimberlite fascinates me. And I think it's at least worth following. I'm gonna talk to some people who have more experience in the diamond industry, and the stock went up by I think 30% yesterday, on good volume. So
mm,
apparently the market still knows to appreciates this type of news. Uh, but yeah, it's very difficult to know as a part-time investor or as a retail investor,
mm,
does this make sense or not? But I think it's worth following as a sort of minimum.
mm. Yeah, interesting story. I'd say if anybody who's watching right now would want to know more about diamonds, I'm willing to explore it. I don't know if I had the mental bandwidth for it now, but if I find someone to talk to, if anybody is interested in, and if you know people to talk to, put it in the comments, I guess, and I'll look into it. So
Yeah,
that's
agreed.
what I can say. What else? What else is happening this week that you wanted to talk about, Luke?
Yeah, there were not most of the companies that had some positive price action were lithium companies or companies acquiring lithium projects. So I think lithium seems to be back. Uh, companies announcing a new acquisition or a financing. It's met with a positive price response. So it seems that lithium is coming back again after a little bit of a slower period compared to last year. Um, any other company I think has some difficulties. I bought some stock in Sanu Gold because they announced a discovery of high grade gold, 11 grams over 15 meters, which is pretty spectacular. But if you look into it, it's mostly 1 meter of very high grade in the transition zone between the oxides and. You know, I, I actually bought stock in the German market because I was anticipating this, a market reaction to a real discovery, and the stock went down 30%. Um, so I think people use liquidity to sell. You see that also with EV nickel. They came with a drill result of 72 meter of almost a percent nickel, which is a metallurgical sample drill result. But people were excited on the chat boards, and the stock went down 22%.
Mm,
So I think this is a period where good news is followed by selling, unless the news is spectacular. Skeena, a real discovery, I think, and a pretty big company, announced a bought deal. Bought deals often lead to sellers because
mm,
you don't know what investors will be in the company and what will happen in 4 months. So this financing was followed by a 19% decline this week. And Aston Bay did a share consolidation and also lost 30%. So this week you see that the sellers are really there. Gold was weak, and whatever happens, almost whatever happens, the stock is going down. So better not to bring any news, even good news, because the stock will go down. So it is the type of period where often between April and September, October, almost nothing works. Who knows if that will change still in the summer? But in most cases, this period is quite weak, and that's what we see right now.
mm, mm. Yeah, lithium seems to be, it's surprising, but it's like it has to do with the metal going up and down as well, because it was quite hot and last week, and it was quite hot this week as well. So it seems to have, or at least it seems to have hit some type of a short term bottom here, dare I say, because it bounced off pretty nicely. So I mean, I was expecting to see some lithium companies on here, but it seems like the hype continues, I guess.
Yeah, I think this market, the behavior is so important. Does it make sense? Not necessarily. That all lithium companies are going up because only a few of them will work. But of course, that's in every market. Um, I think you really have to, at least understand the trend. I am currently buying stocks, copper companies, gold companies that are extremely weak and where I believe it's uh, going to work at some point. But the timing is very difficult because the market cap, it's not very easy to calculate a certain valuation and say, even if you have 2 million ounces, putting $10 per ounce or $20 per ounce, in my opinion, doesn't really work because some companies get $100 per ounce valuation and other companies get $5 per ounce. And you can wait forever until that $5 becomes $10 per ounce. So I think you really have to understand the market well, what type of valuation fits to a type of company. And that also involves management teams, insider buying, insider ownership, shareholders that are part of the company. And if you have a couple of those aspects that are very good, like a good management team and the right shareholders, and a company approaches, for example, a real exploration company without a lot of recent success, then you know if you can buy between $6 and $8 million, that typically is a pretty good valuation. But it doesn't mean it cannot go to $5 million. So you need to be ready for the stock to go lower. You need to have a plan. Are you going to buy more if it drops 20%? You never really know where that drop ends or where that bear market ends. But at some point, you can make certain scenarios for yourself and decide, well, I can live with all of these scenarios, even the worst one. And I think this will at some point work again. And that's my strategy, to buy things and I can live with the scenario of the thing going another 20% down. Otherwise, you will always have to wait for that price to turn. And that may also be a strategy, but sometimes that goes so quickly that you will be too late and there's no liquidity left to buy in cheap. So yeah, there's several strategies, and right now lithium is the popular one. So maybe it's a good thing to ride the wave. I'm not that type of person really, but that depends, of course, on your strategy.
Okay, what else? Something else to talk about this week?
No, not really. I wish there was more to talk about. I looked at the list. There was nothing spectacular. I think true discovery investors are really waiting for a new discovery. Because it's a couple of years ago that the really big names like Rupert Resources and Philo, Chalice, those type of names. If something like that happens, I think at least the interest by the market participants that are already here will increase. And in the case of a really big discovery, of course, it could even affect the outside as well, and maybe some generalist investors will start investing too. Like a Voices Bay type scenario, or these really almost industry changing discoveries. That's something that the industry needs. And otherwise, we'll have to wait maybe for the end of the year again before we see some positive market.
True. One of the I signed a contract this week. So one of my customers now is also in your list. OrCap Invest. They used to be Gold Ore Finders. This is a company that's part of the Ore Group, for whom I did the Ore Day 2023 as well. Do you have any opinion on something like that? Because it seems like it's forming to be a very interesting company that's sort of a hybrid model where they have their own assets, but they're also going to be doing a little bit of dare I say, activist investing in the space, where they're going to look for troubled companies with good projects, step in and try to actively change something within the company. What's your first opinion, I guess, on something like that?
These type of companies, if they are run well and with the right people, often in the long run can really make good returns. I think a lot of speculators are always looking for the exciting discovery or the exciting news release, and they want to really buy into it. These companies are not, they are a little bit more boring, so to say. But that doesn't mean you cannot make good returns with them. Just like Globex model, like, is a different business model, but people find it boring. They have 100 projects, and now it suddenly starts to create value. I mean, they are selling royalties, they are selling projects, and it actually starts to make some money. But sometimes these projects are considered more boring, but it gives the company the time to joint venture projects out, to invest in certain companies. And so I do believe in it, but it is something that doesn't attract the hype, and that's probably a good thing. But it also makes it more like a longer term strategy if you invest in those things. I think you should invest in those type of companies if you think that team is skilled to find good projects and good discoveries and venture them out and joint venture them. Like prospect generators, they are often perceived as a bit boring and they don't own it completely. But in the long run, they have a better odds to actually work out. And I think those companies can actually become 10 baggers too, but not on a hype, but on a slower value building exercise, let's say. That's what I feel about. That's how I feel about companies like that. So I think it's not a bad strategy as long as you have the right people who pick those projects and pick those investments.
To me, it seems like they're forming a good team. Again, what do I know? But it is my personal opinion, which is why I took him on as a customer. But it's an interesting story to follow, nonetheless, as you said. At least in my opinion, at least with what they've been doing recently. So
yeah, they are investing in Aber too, right? And
right.
That's a very depressed stock, 3 million market cap with a discovery. Of course, a lot of companies claim to have a discovery. It's always up to the speculator to decide if it's a real discovery or it has the potential to become a real one. But investing in distressed situations is something that it could be very lucrative if you have the time period and the realism to understand how long it takes and what it takes to get that to that excitement phase. And sometimes it can take a year or two. But that like with Delta, I invested in Delta last year at 5-6 cents, and now it's at 50 cents. And it was only a year of waiting, but most people don't have a year of time. They want to buy something that reacts within 2 or 3 weeks from the investments. I think you should consider this or cap or finders if you have a little bit of a longer term perspective, because discoveries and investments take time. And if you have a longer term perspective, and it doesn't mean 10 years, but at least a year or more, then those type of investments with the right people make sense.
Yeah,
could
even
make sense.
Caution that it would be longer than a year that you would need to look at these investments as, because this is not your greenfield exploration story where you just want them to hit something and then you sell the stock. This is more of a building a long-term business and I think the company does the same. I'm obviously going to interview them on the CEO Barbecue channel soon, but this is really a long-term thing. Like, this is not, let's buy it and flip it next week just because it went up 50% this week or something like that. So
I fully agree. Yeah. That's I forgot the name right now, but the company with the same strategy is the one in with the Australian investors, including Twiggy. You probably know them. It's they invested in Adriatic, they invested in ISO Energy, they invested in Next Gen. I just forgot the name right now. You probably, when you Google those investments, you will find it. It's Next Gen, Adriatic. I mean, this is also a company, Queen's Road Capital. They have been around now for about 2 years. They have a very sound strategy, I think. They have very big investors, billionaire investors. The stock is not, going bananas. People are not like, it's not a hype stock, as you said. It's a company that's trying to build value over time in the best projects and in a very, responsible manner. Investing in a very responsible manner for their investors, and those investments only work over time. And that, I think, is the same for the much smaller or cap company.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I really think that the long-term thing that you said is a very good point, because they're trying to build value over time, and it's just different than just a discovery. So again, good point.
Absolutely.
All right, Luke. Thanks a lot for this week. It's always nice catching up with you. I'll be looking forward to next week.
See you next week.